Recording in progress.
So welcome to all of you watching online. Welcome to Katie in the room. We're here, and we'll begin as normal with some opening invocation mantras. I will put those into the chat box. I'm glad I have remembered. So we'll recite our opening invocation mantras, and then we'll get into the recitation of the Kundalini Stavaha. And after we chant the Kundalini Stavaha, what we'll do is we'll wet our whistle for the Dharana today by exploring a poem by the poet saint Kabir. After we do that, we'll chant slow Om Namah Shivaya, and then we'll meditate. And I had some great people ask questions after class last week. And they said, why do we chant the Kundalini Stavaha? And I said, I've never explained why we do it. And so if you open up the document that's in the chat box, it's an 8-verse hymn that comes to us from Rudra Yamala Tantra. And at the end of the 8 verses, there's what's called a Palashruti, the verses that explain the fruit of the practice. And so I just wanted to read those aloud because it gives some insight into the why. It's as if one is stationed on the path of Kundalini Shakti, rising early in the morning, recites this hymn of 8 verses, which gives great fruit, he becomes a yogi. By its recitation, indeed, one becomes in a moment a great poet of this world. A yogi practicing Kundalini Yoga becomes pure and great and becomes one with the Absolute. O Lord, thus I have related to you this beautiful hymn of Kundalini. By the blessing of this hymn, one becomes praiseworthy like the Guru of the gods. By the blessing of her hymn, meaning this hymn to the goddess, the great Shakti, all the gods are endowed with power. Brahma, the creator, the Lord of the gods, lives for countless ages. So Shakti is the thing that lets everything happen. Without Shakti, even the gods can't be the gods. Without the goddess, we have no power, we have no ability, we have no station or lot in life. And to sing to the goddess is what makes someone a yogi. And so even if you walk into this room and you've never done any tantric meditation before, if you've never sat with a teacher, just from hearing or reciting this hymn, you become qualified to approach this material. It's my bargaining tool with the goddess, you know? And so this, it's an incredible hymn. And it says that by the blessings of her hymn, all gods are endowed with powers. It's interesting. It's not saying that by the blessings, it's like by the blessing of the goddess as song, a goddess as resonance. She is the hymn. You know, she is Gayatri. She's the sound of the breath, the sound that gives power, the mantra. You know, this is what lets all things be possible. And so every mantra is a form of the goddess Shakti. The letters themselves are Shakti. So it doesn't matter what mantra it is, it doesn't matter what practice it is, because you can do it, because you can relate to it, because you can master it, it's Shakti. And so it's worthy of praise. So to turn our consciousness and our mind and our energy towards life and to sing praise to that, and to recognize that the thing that lives behind everything is this incredible power, this incredible divinity, Shakti herself, makes one a yogi. And that's what we're really doing as we explore Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. We're noticing that Shiva is prescribing, Lord Bhairava is describing all of these ways in, but they're all Shakti. And they say at the beginning of the text that Shakti herself is the doorway to Shiva, that Shakti is Shiva's face. You know, Shakti is the way that we can come to know Shiva or Bhairava, because Shiva is so subtle. You know, if Shiva is quiescence, the ground of being, transcendence, peace, that's a really subtle state. But if we ride the waves of energy and the waves of experience back to their source, Shakti always becomes one with Shiva again. And so that's our way in, to work with Shakti, to praise Shakti, to see the goddess, to worship life. And today we're working with an incredible Dharana that has its focus in bliss. So we'll begin with our opening invocation mantras, and then we'll go straight into the recitation of the Shri Kundalini Stavaha.
Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachitananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase Nityaya Nandaya Gurave Shisha Samsara Harine Bhakta Karyai Kadehaya Namaste Chit Sadatmane Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mahavirvishabhai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Janmodhara nirikshani hatharuni vedadi bijadima nityam chetasi bhavyate bhuvikada sadvakya sancharini mam bhatu priyadasa bhavakapadam sanghataye sridhara Datre Tvam Swayamadi Deva Vanita Dinati Dinam Vasho Raktam Bhamrita Chandrigale Pimai Sarpa Kritir Nidrita Jagrat Kurma Samashrita Bhagavati Twamam Samalokaya Mam Surganda Kuganda Dosha Jaditam Vedadikaryan Vidam Swalpa Swamala Chandra Koti Kiraner Nityam Shariram Guru Siddharte Nijadosha Vidsthalagatir Vyajiyate Vidyaya Kundalya Kulamarga Mukta Nagari Maya Kumarga Shriha Yadyavam Bhajati Prabhata Samaye Madhyana Kale Tava Nityam Yakula Kundali Japapada Bhojam Sasido Bhave Vaivakasha Chaturdalete Vimale Vancha Phalun Mulake Nityam Samprapti Nitya Deha Gatita Shankaitita Bhavita Vidya Kundalamani Swajanani Maya Kriya Bhavyate Yaste Seda Kulod Bhave Pradati Visat Stotra Kaishambhuvi Dhata Shankar Mohini Tribhuvana Chaya Padogamini Samsaradi Mahasukha Praharani Tatrastita Yogini Sarva Granti Vipedini Swabhujaga Sukshmati Sukshma Para Brahma Jnana Vinodini Kulakoti Vyaghatini Bhavyate Vande Shri Kulakundalim Trivalipi Sanghe Swayambhu Priyam Pravishtam Baramarga Chitta Chapala Bala Bala Nishkalam Ya Devi Paripati Vedavadana Sambhavini Tapini Ishtanam Shirasi Swayambhuvanidam Sambhavayami Kriyam Vani Koti Mridangana Madana Nishreni Koti Dhvani Praneshira Sarashi Mula Kamalola Saika Purnanana Asha Dodbhava Mega Raji Janita Tvantananastayini Mata Saparipatu Sukshma Pataga Mam Yoginam Shankari Shritya Naravrajanti Sahasa Vaikunta Kailasayor Anandaika Vilasinim Shashashita Nandananam Kairanam Mata Shri Kulagundale Priyakale Kali Kalode Pade Tatstanam Pranamami Bhadravani Deva Mudaratvam Pashu Kundali Shakti Margasta Stutrashtaka Mahaphalam Yapatit Pratarutaya Sayogi Bhavati Dhruvam Kshananivahi Patena Kavina Todbhavetiha Pavitra Kundali Yogi Brahmalino Bhavinnaha Itite Katitam Nata Kundali Komalam Stavam Etat Statra Prasadaina Deveshu Guru Gishpatihi Sarve Deva Siddhi Hutaha Asyastatra Prasadataha Dvi Paradam Chiranjeevi Brahma Sarva Sureshwaraha Brahma Sarva Sureshwaraha Brahma Sarva Sureshwaraha Satgurunat Maharaj Ki Jai.
Just sense for the energy, the subtle reverberation of our opening mantras and the Shri Kundalini Stavaha and the atmosphere around. Just try and feel the quality of the environment in this moment. And what happens if you recognize it for what it is, that this is Shakti. And her nature is upliftment, creativity, power, revelation, bliss. And then take awareness inside. Feel the radiant aliveness of your body. The subtle shimmer, the ebb and flow of the breath and the heartbeat, and also the play of our own consciousness. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, memories. All manifestations of that great power that is creativity, revelation, bliss. And if this incredible force in the universe, if its nature is creativity and bliss, and it lives inside and it lives outside, what can you do in your own inner world in this moment to just become more available to her? She who lives in the heart, she who animates the breath, who inspires thought and feeling. And if you're mystified about what to do in your inner world as a meditator, what the spiritual solution is to become more receptive to the Shakti in this moment, you can use speech, inner speech. You could call it prayer. You can speak directly to that compassionate force in the universe who reveals, who is always at play. Oh, great goddess, reveal yourself to me. Oh, divine Shakti. Help me be nearer to you. And then beginning to breathe in a little bit deeper. And breathe out a little bit longer. Feel the body as it breathes. Become aware of the body, aware of your breath, and aware of your surroundings. Take the awareness inside and let it mix and mingle and merge with the outside. Feel that as a blissful act. The current of your consciousness, your own inner Shakti, meeting the outer world. And when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open and come into the room. A poem by Kabir. I love Kabir because he, Kabir has this. I've been thinking a lot about music lately. I've been thinking a lot about music lately, and particularly, Spotify has this new thing that's called like a blend playlist, where you could send one of your friends a link, and if they click on the link and they open it, what happens is it based on all the songs that you have saved and all the songs they have saved, it generates a playlist that's like a Venn diagram of your musical taste, And so it shows you on the playlist next to every song, whether just you like it or just they like it or both of you like it. And I'm meeting new people in the city, and one of the things that I'm doing with them is like a way to start conversations is I'm trying to find common ground, and I'm doing it over music. I'm taking old friends too, and I'm sending them this, and what's amazing is finding that intersecting space of the Venn diagram of your musical taste. And recently I generated a blend profile with somebody, and there's like all of this really great music that I associate with my memories from my childhood, and like kind of like rock and singer-songwriters from like the 60s and 70s, like things like my mom and dad used to play on a record player at home, like, and Van Morrison is like one of these great singer-songwriters, and you never know, like, is the song about his love for a woman, or is he speaking to God? And there's this amazing thing, like, in the realm of poetry, in the realm of art, when we're expressing love, that love has an incredible ability to break outside of boxes and labels and transcend boundaries, scale walls, leap fences, and its nature is to spread and always move high to a higher tattva, and I think this is, and as I'm hearing all of this music that I'm sharing in common with people, and it's enkindling these great memories inside my own heart space, I'm starting to feel a familiarity with people who I don't know, which is interesting, because we have this shared love of this music, which is, something that we bond over, and at the same time, it's awakening the feeling of all of those memories that I have associated with this music, It's great music that's so dear to me. And it's reminding me so much about the power of our own consciousness, that the fact that all the great love that we've ever experienced, all the great love that we've ever known, it's inside of us. And it's always longing to be realized. It's actually desperate, that it's hoping that you'll look and turn towards it. The real neglected lover is the innermost heart, the storehouse of all of our impressions and memories. And not just the storehouse of impressions and memories, but the feeling that's there. Tukram Maharaj says, God is in your bhava, God is in your feeling. And Bhagavad Gita says, God has taken the form of feeling. And so it's this deep feeling, of all the love that we've ever experienced, we carry around with us in latent form. Like, why aren't we in touch with that all the time? And we can only access love in presence. And the mind sometimes, in an effort to understand life and to make sense of how unpredictable things are, in an attempt to categorize things and decide if things are good for us or bad for us, as a means of discernment, sometimes the mind will take us out of presence. And the immediacy of this path is that every moment is this present moment is the most important moment of your whole life. This present moment is the most important moment of your whole sadhana. Because it doesn't matter if you've been chanting or meditating or doing seva or whatever your practice is. It doesn't matter if you've been doing it for 50 years. If in this moment you don't have touch with your heart, you're off the path. But don't worry, it doesn't mean all hope is lost. If you don't have access to your level of attainment right now in this moment, you can always return to love. We can always return to presence. We can always return to bliss. How do we do it, though? Well, luckily we have great centering techniques from this tantric tradition that talk about how do we engage with life. We have the dharanas. We have the creative capacity of the mind. We have incredible memories. And the nature of all of them is bliss. It's the nature of consciousness is Ananda Shakti. And when we bring the mind to those great memories, to those great feelings, when we invoke them in this moment and infuse our breath and our body and our situation with that, then we can taste it. It's a bliss we can taste and feel. And it's called Ananda Rasa, the nectar of bliss. And so we're always trying to be drunk on this Ananda Rasa, the wine of bliss. And it's most easily accessible in love. So Kabir is going to use some images of love, and he's going to talk about the heart. and what lies inside of us. So we'll turn it over to Kabir, the great poet saint. Kabir says, "The darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind. Open the window to the west and disappear into the air inside you. Near your breastbone there is an open flower. Drink the honey that is all around that flower. Waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Listen. Sound of big seashells, sound of bells." Kabir says, "Friend, listen. This is what I have to say. The guest I love is inside me." Okay, so what the hell does that mean? Let's look at it. The darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind. This is interesting. It sounds at first like it could be a bad thing. The darkness of night, poor me. But also, there's this kind of expression like history is made at night, And what happens when two bodies come close together at night, right? If we come together in like a kind of erotic communion, what happens when two bodies get together? The light between the two bodies disappears. There's darkness because of contact. Also, when we take the current of the mind and the energy of the senses and turn within, the most intimate part of us that surrounds the self is called shunya. It's darkness, it's the void. It's the darkness of deep meditation. So the closer we get to the heart, one of the layers that we're going to pass through is like darkness, And so this is very interesting. He's like making friends with a thing that normally could be scary and bad, depending on how you hold it, could also be really exciting and filled with almost a kind of eros. And so there's a loveliness tonight that he's encouraging us to investigate. So Kabir says, "The darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind." Right? So the lover and the beloved here are body and mind. Right? The shadow of love, of bringing body and mind to the same place. There's this interesting thing. A normal person, what they say and what they do and what they think and what they feel, all those are different masks or faces pointing in different directions. We say we want one thing and then we do this other behavior that doesn't make any fucking sense, And so he's saying, like, turn all of those things that want, that crave, and let them face each other like lover and beloved, and let them come closer together. Let them be one. So let the body and the mind, right, all these organs of action, let them come to rest in the same place. Let them come closer, so close that there's no space for light to shine between them. Like, let them merge. Let them come together. So he says, the darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind. So he's instructing us, do yoga, bring them together, find the linking mechanism that bring body and mind together. And then he says, open the window to the west and disappear into the air inside you. Right, so there's a kind of subtilization. West is the direction that the sun sets in, So it's like the lights are coming down, the closing of the eyes, the current of the mind, the energy of the senses going inside, and we're disappearing into the air inside of us. We know from Kabir's other work that one of his essential practices was the Hamsa mantra, So he's talking about the breath that lives inside the breath, or the energy that underlies the breath, the mantra of the breath. And so he's saying, disappear into the air inside you. He's saying, go to pranashakti. And then he goes on, near your breastbone, there is an open flower. Interesting, we call chakras, the chakras themselves are characterized as these kind of lotuses with various numbers of petals. Anahata, the unstruck, is the chakra of the heart space. So he's talking to us about disappear into the air inside you. And where do we do it? Near your breastbone, there is an open flower. He's saying, bring the breath, the subtle breath, into the heart to work with Hamsa. And drink the honey that is all around that flower. Waves are coming in. There's so much magnificence near the ocean. Listen. sound of big seashells, sound of bells. So he's saying, like, there's this kind of hidden oceanic sound of the breath, this kind of tide that we can mount. And he's saying, listen to the sound of the breath of the heart, the sound of the breath coming in, the sound of the breath going out. If you're any kind of hatha yogi, you've had experience of working with Ujjayi pranayama. It's an oceanic breath, like. In the hatha yoga practice, we instruct the Ujjayi pranayama because it's an entry-level way for people to gain access to the subtle nada, the subtle sound of hamsa. It's actually the entry-level point for initiation into hamsa, which is the sound our breath makes. But it really reaches its fullness. It culminates when we can place the breath in the heart. And in Vijnana Bhairava, it instructs working with the breath and Dwadashanta, feeling the breath as it circulates between heart and the upper liminal space. Baba Muktananda instructs the same thing in this tradition. We work with the inner heart and the heart of life. We work with it this way. It's the same. Doesn't matter. It's like the waves are rolling in and the waves are rolling out, and it's got a sound. So, and we can drink in the nectar. It's like we can sip it in with the breath. Near the breastbone there is an open flower. Drink the honey that is all around that flower. Waves are coming in. There's so much magnificence near the ocean, right? And this is also like the oceanic nature of consciousness and the way things arise and subside. All our thoughts and feelings and memories and sensations, they're individual waves. But through this drinking of the nectar of our own love, or feeling this kind of a nectar that surrounds the heart with the Hamsa mantra, we go to that oceanic quality of consciousness. It's not just the waves, it's the whole ocean, It's this chance for expansion. And it's with the sound, and the sound of the breath in the heart. So he's telling us the practice. It's so exquisite, the way he's hidden this. And now he talks to us directly. Kabir says, friend. So he loves us. He's sharing this with us because he loves us, And he's seeking the commonality with us, A friend is someone who you can reveal your heart to, So here he is. Kabir has generated the blend playlist for us. And the thing that we have in common with Kabir, the music that we share with Kabir, is Hamsa. It's the sound that we both love, And so he loves it and you love it. And because you love it and he loves it, there's so much grace in it. There's a huge history of memory that comes by listening to the sound of the breath. So many great yogis, so many great saints and siddhas have accomplished so much by feeling the heart, by listening to the breath. And we're listening to that same song when we do it. It's so beautiful. Kabir says, he's talking to us, so he's talking to you, Kabir says, friend, listen, this is what I have to say. The guest I love is inside me. Interesting, The love that you love with, any great love that you've always felt, it's been an experience you've had inside your own consciousness. And he's kind of doing a bit of double entendre here, He's saying that the state, the thing that you're looking for, it's inside of you. But also, the guest I love is inside me. If we work, there is a kind of Shringara rasa, the rasa or the feeling of eros, of love, of the erotic that you can bring to the breath. And this is, very lofty, that when we inhale, the outer world we take inside of us. It's penetrating, it comes inside of us. And then as we exhale, we give ourselves over to life. It's a kind of yielding. And because the Atman, the self, it's neither male nor female. It's not lingam or yoni, you know what I mean? It's both. And so there's this kind of like being receptive to the force of life as the inhalation comes to us. And then we take on this dynamic role of exhaling, and life receives it. And this kind of movement in and out is if you get into the blissful state and you pour your love into the breath and you take on this kind of attitude of like, life is my lover, or the breath is the lover. And there's this play you know? There's this kind of like movement in and out. It's erotic love play. Then the breath can take on this really, really incredible, ecstatic, intimate thing that can bring you to your very own self, the thing that's always inside you. So brilliant, so brilliant what Kabir has said. So I'll read the poem by Kabir once more, without commentary, without interruption. He writes, "The darkness of night is coming along fast, and the shadows of love close in the body and the mind. Open the window to the west and disappear into the air inside you. Near your breastbone there is an open flower. Drink the honey that is all around that flower. Waves are coming in. There is so much magnificence near the ocean. Listen, sound of big seashells, sound of bells." Kabir says, "Friend, listen, this is what I have to say. The guest I love is inside me." The Dharana we'll work with today is a bliss practice.
Anande mahati prapte drishteva bandhave chirat anangam urgatam gyatva dalayastan manabhave.
On the occasion of great delight being obtained, or on the occasion of delight arising from seeing a friend or relative after a long time, one should meditate on the delight itself and become absorbed in it. Then his mind will become identified with it. He will become one with it. So the instruction here, and it's framed, just before the Dharana, it's giving all of these incredible bliss practices, and it's saying we could experience any bliss that we feel in our life, the bliss from sexual union, the bliss from hearing wonderful music, from eating good food. Verily, anywhere we find satisfaction, where bliss arises, we can be with that bliss until it dissolves. If you follow the bliss into the place where it dissolves into, it actually brings us to Shiva. The bliss comes to the peace. So this is the Ananda Shakti moving towards the Chit Shakti, the power of consciousness, the power of bliss, melting and merging and turning into the power of consciousness. And so the Dharana here is the example it uses of a great delight being obtained. The example it says is after you've seen a friend or loved one after a long time being apart, any time being apart, that moment of coming back together, it's so sweet that if you can be with that feeling of joy or bliss, the joy of being reunited, the bliss of coming together, and you can hold that bliss or hold the memory of that experience. As the memory fades away, you can just hold the bliss, and the bliss will saturate this whole experience here and now, and you'll become one with it. And the bliss will take us to that incredible spacious consciousness. And it has a kind of energy. It has the power of love itself. And so, before we chant Om Namah Shivaya for a few minutes, what we'll do is I'll give some instructions, just trying to get us to invoke the feeling of any great delight you've ever felt. You can use the example from Vijnana Bhairava, like the coming together, the being reunited with a friend or loved one after a time apart, and it doesn't even have to be a long time apart. For a long time, especially in moments of heartache, I used to think a lot about, I used this Dharana a lot. When I first discovered this Dharana, when it was taught to me, it changed my whole life, because I thought that happiness was always in some other time. I was always really nostalgic, and happiness was back then, or happiness had to be sometime in the future. But learning this Dharana that I could invoke and I could saturate my life in any great experience of love or bliss or happiness that I've ever felt, and I can do that right now, that love is here now, bliss is here now, grace is here now, God is here now, it was a revelation. It changed the ball game. And for a long time, especially in moments of heartache, the feeling that I used to use is, I had a cat when I lived in New York City. Her name was Rashmi. And after being out in the city, running around all day and, being at work or going to see friends, the feeling of coming back home and like the way my cat used to look at me and the way she would meow and like the feeling of, it's like she would be so excited. She was just so happy to see me. And I was always someone that I was always so happy to see, the love that I had for her and the love that she had for me. It's one for the ages, And sometimes people are awful, but Rashmi was never awful, So it was amazing. There's always a way in. Grace and love and bliss are always showing you, like, look, it's still on offer. Even if you have to renegotiate it sometimes. Even if it's just the love or the feeling of bliss of being reunited with a cat, with your dog, with a friend's baby, with a song that you love, the way it invokes great memories. You always have access to bliss. You always have access to joy. So let's use the brilliant part of the mind and let's soak ourselves in the Ananda Rasa by working with deep feeling, by working with bhava. So if you just close your eyes and go inside, let's bring our awareness into the heart, Hridaya Kash, the space, the cave of the heart. And as you become aware of the heart's nature is to love. Just feel into the heart space and its energy, its aliveness, its creative capacity. And I want you to invoke a feeling that brings, a memory that brings the feeling of great delight. Maybe you work with the suggested memory from Vijnana Bhairava, and you work with the memory of being reunited with a loved one after some time apart. And I want you to replay the memory in your mind and make it vivid. See if you can remember it in detail. And as you get back in touch with the memory of bliss, notice how the feeling starts to awaken, even subtly, in your body and your mind and your energy. There's a shift that can occur. And that's the power of bliss, that's the power of love. When we're reunited with friends after a long time apart, it doesn't matter how much time has been, how much distance there's been, you just pick right back up where you left off. And there's this simple sweetness of just being together. And that feeling is what God is made of. That's the feeling of grace. That is the Shakti. And so if you lose touch with the feeling, I want you just to go back to the memory. Replay the memory in your mind, make it vivid, and feel how that bliss starts to just bubble up. It starts to percolate. See if you can let the specifics of the memory just fade away and just hold the feeling in your heart. get back in touch with the feeling if you lost it. Just make the return in as elegant and simple of a way as possible. Make contact with the memory, relive the moment. Any great delight, any feeling of bliss or love or satisfaction, whatever gets you there, make that return to love. And love doesn't work like anything else. When we share love, when we express love, it expands. It doesn't get depleted. When we bring awareness to the good gets better. And so today we're going to sing Om Namah Shivaya. And I want you to try and pour this Anandarasa, the nectar of bliss, the nectar of love, and its power into the mantra, or feel the mantra as a wave of that Ananda Shakti, that power of bliss, that power of love. So we'll chant a slow Om Namah Shivaya for a few minutes, and I want you to keep getting back in touch with the feeling if you lose it. And we'll just keep going. We'll keep making that return to love and expressing the love, the bliss in the mantra, and then we'll meditate. You're settling inside. Drop awareness into the heart. And as Bhagwan Nityananda instructs, Bhavana Rakho, our meditation is one of keeping the feeling, immersing ourselves in the great power of bliss, love, satisfaction, Ananda Shakti. And so you might choose just to replay that memory, that cherished moment in your mind, and then let the memory dissolve and just hold the feeling. If you need a way to express that love, to hold on to it, you can pour your love into the mantra, or dropping awareness into the heart, pour your love into the Hamsa technique, the sound of the breath as it passes in and out of the heart space. And as we listen to the sound of our breath with loving attention, whatever attitude you have towards the divine, whether it's Lord or friend, mother, father, or lover, as you breathe in, breathe them in, breathe the divine in. Let them come close to you. Feel that they're here now. And as you exhale, take a step nearer to them. And in the space between the breaths, that love is consummated. You can really feel that simple sweetness, the joy of being reunited, that you and whatever you long for most, love, acceptance, peace, belonging, it's here now. It's nearer than your own breath. It can be experienced in the temple of your heart. We'll meditate together now for a few minutes. bit deeper. And breathe out a little bit longer. Feel the breath itself as this wave arising and subsiding from this great ocean of love, of bliss. Breath coming in, breath going out. And slowly walk awareness outside. You can start to introduce gentle movements, like shifting your weight from side to side or wiggling your fingers and toes, and turning your head left and right, or moving the spine in some way. Let the movements be gentle. Awaken the body. And when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open as we come back into the room. And it came to me in meditation to say this. I don't know why I have to say it, but I have to say it. You know, like when we get near to the fire, we gain the benefit of its warmth. And so when if the job is really to do this, you know, it's like keep ourselves close to love. Keep yourself close to the bliss. You know, it's the mind. And life's crazy, unpredictable dynamism. It's like getting further away from the light sometimes, you know, when we move away. But just bring yourself close again and again so you can be warmed by the campfire, you know. And so we can use the mind to saturate our life in this great experience of joy, of bliss. And there's a great power underneath any feeling state. And underneath every emotional feeling state or sense of identification, there's always, at the end, Ananda Shakti, Ananda Rasa. So even your great longing, even your great sadness, if you follow that feeling into the place where it dissolves, it'll bring you to that place where you can experience Shiva and Shakti as one. And so the homework now is really, you know, in your daily life when you experience any great delight, any satisfaction, notice, bring your awareness to that feeling inside of you. Reunite Shiva and Shakti in this way. And then watch as, you know, not every moment is going to be a high. So the idea is you feel the joy that you have and you make it conscious when it's there. And then as the volume slowly goes down on it, like the volume turning down at the end of a song, like that Motown fade, you know, you can just kind of like, whoa, be with that feeling as it dissolves back into consciousness. And that's a very, very powerful moment. It's a very powerful moment for recognition. Does anyone have anything they want to share, or anything they want to say about the poem or the practice, or questions that you have, reflections? Are you trying to unmute, Genevieve? Is that what's happening?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
My internet's really bad. So I wasn't sure if I even am. I think I'm still on because your screen's frozen.
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I just had. I think I've been having the experience a lot lately of having to sit with like a heavy feeling in the chest, and feeling how like staying with it and not moving away from it, and then feeling the mantra and the breath coming into the heart space helps almost break it down a bit. Has been my experience with it lately, and that's kind of what I had then, actually. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. The mantra is a perfect way to express anything that you need to express. You know, if you express even negative emotions in the outer world, there's usually karmic consequences. You know, if you dump your anger on somebody, you get in a fight, you know, it ruins the relationship, you know. But you can pour your anger into the mantra. You could say the mantra ferociously, you know. You could give your sadness over to the mantra. You could express it. You could surrender it to God, or you can pour that feeling into it. Whatever you have to express, you can always do it with the breath or the mantra. And it's a productive use of our worry, of our sadness, of our frustration, actually, because it's closer to dissolving it back into sameness. And it's not going to have huge ramifications in the outer world. So getting in touch with the feeling, bringing the mantra to the feeling as an offering to imbue it with grace or consciousness, or, pour the feeling into the practice, express it that way. And in that way, it can shift. Very, very powerful. Yeah, Hamsa can do that. Guru Om can do that. Om Namah Shivaya can do that. The mantras are so powerful, so alive. Of course. Great. Anyone else before we sign off and do Purnamida?
Sure.
Yes, Katie, we'll hear from you.
Well, two things.
Yeah.
So, firstly, when you were speaking before around just simplicity of breath and inhale, exhale, it was just a moment when you spoke where I realized, like, so often when we speak about, with the exhale, surrender. And it just occurred to me when we were speaking, like, also the importance of having a quality of surrender in the inhale, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where receptivity can exist. Because if we don't have a quality of surrender and softness of the edges and openness, it's like we're trying to dictate or determine, like, the quality of force of pushing what we bring in.
Yeah.
This is like being like surrendering to what wants to come in.
That's right. Letting life enter you it has to be a relaxed process.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you tense up for that entry, it's very painful.
Yeah.
So yeah, the inhale also is an act of surrender. Yeah.
So it was that, which was like, and then just in the meditation, I had a very specific time that there was a lot of joy associated with, and then my mind, as it does, like, started to wander and took me off into a different encounter that, like, my mental modeling told me was not positive, was actually layered with trauma and sadness, because it involved, like, somebody nearing end of life. And so what I observed in myself was that I started to become frustrated that you had created this invitation to be in bliss, and that my annoying I'm doing, like,
Air quotes, yeah.
And my annoying brain, my mind had taken me to this place, and then I surrendered, right? And then I was like, okay, what if just I allowed myself to feel this? And then whilst I was in it, and when the tears came, and when I was reliving that experience, what I also realized is, even though there was pain in the experience, there was also bliss. The bliss is the enduring part. The love is the eternal part, too. And that's much closer to the truth when we work with those experiences. And you can see the thread of that Ananda Shakti, even in painful moments, is what starts to be able, you got a taste of that in some way. But, I was saying this to someone yesterday in class, but the love that you give to your friend or your loved one, who, even when they pass away, they take that love with them. And in the same way, the love lives on in you. And that's the proof that this is eternal, and wherever they go, or who knows where they go, when they go, but they have that love with them, and it's a uniting force. And you can anyone or anything you've ever lost, you can always meet again in the heart space, which is the source of love. Prana has its source in the heart. There's that, what is it? There's a place in the heart where everything meets. And, But the last set of teachings that I gave, I didn't know I wasn't going to be returning to America. When I came to Australia for a 10-day retreat that turned into a 5-year life total transformation. But what the big teaching that I was talking about is that in the mantra, we're always together. The mantra is like that unifying force that brings us to the heart. So when I recite the mantra, when I bring my awareness to the heart, everything I've ever lost is actually there. Every person, every upset, anything, and it's actually, she lives on in the heart. He lives on in the heart. They're there. And I can always meet them in that space. And that's a beautiful thing. And the mantra can be a great entry point to do that. And that is a force that is, it can hold space for our grief, but also is an invitation to grace and the longer enduring, resilient love, which is who we are. And it's the power of consciousness. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. So we'll chant Purnamada, Purnamidam, and we'll be done.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Varshishyate Om Shanti 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 Satguruna